You don't fall in love only with a person. You fall in love with a memory your mind is chasing. You don't fear abandonment because of the present. You fear it because your subconscious learned its lesson long before you had words for it. Every relationship begins on the surface: smiles, attraction, excitement. But it is shaped deep below awareness, where old emotions, forgotten experiences, and silent wounds still breathe. The subconscious mind never asks for permission. It chooses who feels familiar. It decides what feels safe, and it quietly pulls you back into emotional patterns you swore you escaped. Today's story is not about romance alone. It is about the invisible mind that writes the script of your relationships while you believe you are choosing freely, and once you see it, you can never unsee it. Chapter 1. The First Silent Encounter. Before the heart speaks, the subconscious listens. Attraction feels sudden, magnetic, almost magical, yet it is rarely random. Long before two souls meet, the mind has already built a familiar emotional landscape. The comfort you feel does not come from who stands before you. It comes from what they awaken within you. Philosophical wisdom teaches that the mind seeks what it already knows, not what is best, but what is familiar. The subconscious scans for emotional echoes, tones of voice, emotional distance, warmth, unpredictability, safety. You don't fall into love, you recognize it. At first, everything feels effortless. Conversations flow easily. The flaws feel invisible. The connection feels destined. But beneath this beautiful illusion, old emotional blueprints quietly activate. The subconscious believes it has found a stage where an unfinished emotional story can finally reach its ending. And so the bond forms, not between two present minds, but between two past worlds silently colliding. This chapter begins the emotional journey, where desire feels like choice, but is guided by memory. Chapter 2. The Comfort That Feels Like Home. As the connection deepens, comfort grows. Not the comfort of discovery, but something older, heavier, and strangely soothing. The voice feels known. The emotional rhythm feels expected. The silences feel familiar. This is the subconscious recognizing old emotional territory. Ancient thinkers taught that the mind is addicted to familiarity even when it carries pain. The heart may crave peace, but the subconscious craves what it understands. So many relationships feel like home, not because they are safe, but because they resemble emotional environments once survived. You begin to give more than you planned. You tolerate more than you thought you would. You shrink in places you promised you wouldn't again, yet you stay, because deep inside, the subconscious whispers, "This feels known." This is not weakness, this is conditioning. And slowly, comfort turns into quiet emotional dependency, not born from love alone, but from the fear of losing emotional familiarity. Chapter 3. When fear begins to speak. Fear never arrives loudly at first. It comes as hesitation, overthinking, reading between imaginary lines. The subconscious, sensing emotional risk, awakens old protective instincts. Suddenly, small silences feel dangerous. Distance feels like an ending. Uncertainty feels like abandonment. Philosophical insight teaches that the mind fears loss more than it values truth. And so fear begins to reshape perception. You start to protect yourself before anything even breaks. You adapt, you suppress, you surrender emotional ground slowly. The relationship hasn't changed yet, but the internal atmosphere has. You become alert, hyper-aware, emotionally vigilant. Love begins sharing space with quiet anxiety. This is where many bonds begin to fracture, not from betrayal, but from unhealed emotional memory rising to the surface at the first sign of uncertainty. The subconscious is not against love, it is against the pain it remembers. Chapter 4. The Emotional Mirror. At some point, every relationship stops being a meeting and becomes a mirror. You no longer see only the other. You begin to see yourself reflected back in emotional reactions. Triggers surface. Unhealed fears speak. Defensive habits reveal themselves without warning. The subconscious now exposes the inner world. Anger shows abandoned wounds. Jealousy reveals insecurity. Withdrawal exposes fear of being seen too deeply. And arguments rarely fight about the present moment. They battle long-forgotten emotional injuries. Ancient philosophers reminded that conflict is the doorway through which self-knowledge walks. What wounds you most is often what waits to be healed within. The relationship becomes a silent teacher. Each emotional reaction points inward. Each misunderstanding holds hidden memory. Each emotional storm uncovers a deeper truth buried beneath identity. At this stage, the bond can evolve, or quietly begin to decay. Chapter 5. The Subconscious Power Struggle. Now control enters silently, not as dominance, but as emotional positioning. Who pulls away first? Who reaches out last? Who stays silent longer? The subconscious believes control equals safety, and so emotional power games emerge without intention. Distance becomes a shield. Silence becomes a weapon. Attention becomes currency. Neither side plans it, yet both feel its weight. Philosophical wisdom teaches that the desire to control comes from the fear of losing oneself, and beneath every power, struggle is a frightened inner voice asking, "Will I disappear if I surrender?" Love becomes tense, not broken, just guarded. The subconscious is no longer chasing connection alone. It is now trying to survive emotionally. Chapter 6. The Quiet Emotional Collapse. Nothing explodes, no dramatic ending appears. Instead, something softer breaks. Emotional safety erodes quietly. Conversations shorten. Touch fades. Presence becomes distant. Not because love vanished, but because fear took its place. The subconscious now prepares for loss long before it happens. It reduces attachment to minimize future pain. Emotional walls rise invisibly. Connection thins gradually. Ancient thinkers believed that most endings begin long before their final moment. This is that invisible ending, where two souls still stand together, yet feel alone. This stage feels confusing. There is no villain, no clear mistake, only fatigue from carrying unspoken emotion for too long, and so silence slowly replaces intimacy. Chapter 7. Awakening the Hidden Self. When the bond finally loosens, something unexpected happens. The pain does not only hurt, it reveals. For the first time, the subconscious steps into awareness. Patterns become visible. Emotional habits finally make sense. The past speaks clearly. And here lies the quiet victory. Awareness interrupts repetition. Philosophers taught that awareness is the beginning of freedom. You no longer chase familiarity blindly. You no longer confuse safety with attachment. You no longer call survival instinct love. The subconscious does not disappear, but it transforms when understood. And when the next connection comes, it will not begin from memory alone. It will begin from clarity,